the feeling of greatness really is, I mean, there's a couple different sides to the feeling of greatness. I think when Moe talked about the feeling of greatness, and I've experienced this myself many times playing golf and hitting golf balls, is that I absolutely know that before I make a golf swing that I'm going to hit a great shot. I know it before it happens. And that is a feeling you get when you're playing the game or when you're extremely proficient at something. But it comes from a lot of practice and it comes from a lot of work. And what Moe Norman taught me, it was the very first question I asked him was, Moe, how did you learn to do that? When I saw him do an exhibition, and he said, hard work. It's hard work. You can't buy this. And I learned very, very quickly that yes, you have to put in the time and you have to do things correctly. And Modeling Moe Norman was what I did. But you, from the practice and from the hard work and from the time you spend, you develop a level of proficiency to where, and Moe told me one time, he said, I can't swing it badly. And I think that is the feeling of greatness, is when you can actually have a knowing that you're going to be hitting great shots no matter what, and you're going to perform well no matter what, and you're going to hit good shots no matter what. I want to say it's almost an instinct, but it's a learned feeling you get, which he called the feeling of greatness, from being so good at something that you can no longer be bad at it. I think that's a big side of what Moe was talking about. The other thing that Moe was talking about, which is an easier thing for people to relate to, is that the feeling of greatness is simply how good it feels to hit a good shot. When you hit a good shot on the club face and it comes off solid and it flies straight, it just feels so good. And I talked to Moe many times about that. And I said, why do you like to hit golf balls? And he says, because it feels so good. And that's another part of the feeling of greatness. So I think there's two sides of it, but a lot of times the feeling of greatness that Moe was talking about was that gut innate feeling he had from knowing that the moment he set up to that golf shot, he was going to hit it good. What I thought I would do today is just kind of do a quick presentation of what Moe called his feeling of greatness, which is basically what he called his golf swing. And I like to walk you through what I feel in the swing. A lot of what Moe taught me years ago was the simplicity of his golf swing and how those things relate to his ball striking, and why was he the greatest ball striker that's ever played the game. Now, when I first walked up to Moe, I did not know who he was. In 1994, I had been practicing his swing for a year. I saw his swing on video, I recognized the plane of his golf swing, and I started I spent about 12 months working on his swing mechanics. And then I had an opportunity to finally meet him in 1994 at a clinic in Chicago, and I walked up to him and I had a bunch of questions for him. The first question was, I said, well, first of all, I said, you're the best I've ever seen. He said, I know, I'm the best in the world. And then I had the first question, which was, how did you learn to do that? Hit it so good, be so good. He goes, hard work, can't buy it. So I thought, okay, well, you got to work at this thing a little bit. And then I proceeded to become friends with him. And my goal really initially with Moe was to become a better golfer, like you. I wanted to become a better golfer. I wanted to understand what his swing felt like. The first question I had in my mind was this: what if I could just stand in his body and feel what he does just one time, right? Because isn't that what we're trying to do? Isn't that why you're here at the school? Is you're trying to learn what it feels like to swing it perfectly? That's what we're here for. So the goal of any instruction, the goal of this golf school, the goal of you practicing is to learn a new feeling, or learn the feeling of proper movement. That's what everything we're doing is all about. Well, I was, maybe a lot of people don't know my story, but I was also a struggling golfer. I was playing at the professional level, but I was still struggling just as much as anybody, and maybe even more, because I was trying to play for a living, trying to make money doing this. So I was struggling with my swing. I wanted to become a better ball striker. I played with so many good players that were better than me from tee to green. And so I started looking for, trying to solve the problem, which was find an instructor that good players worked with that could help me take my ball striking and my game to the next level. So that was in the early 90s. And I found a well-known instructor that had worked with a lot of PGA Tour players. and I spent 3 years training with him, and I got worse. And so that was kind of my overall experience with, okay, golf instruction. And I can tell you this, no one was spending more time hitting golf balls. No one was working harder. I was spending eight hours a day hitting golf balls, thousands of balls a day. That's all I was doing, and I was getting worse and worse and worse. And so I figured it had to be a couple of things. I figured it could be I wasn't working hard enough, but I don't know how I could work harder. It had to be, well, maybe I was just, not good enough. Maybe I just wasn't talented enough. But look, I had hit good golf shots before. I'd played well before. I knew that there had to be a solution there. So I didn't think that was it. Or it could be the technique, what I was trying to learn. And it seemed to weigh heavily on the fact that if I actually looked at the conventional golf swing and what I was doing at the time, it was so confusing. There was magazines all said different things. Golf instructors all said different things. My instructor would say different things every time I would work with him. There was no model. There was no reason or logic behind the model. That was my problem with it, because every lesson was different. So like everybody else, that students I teach today, I got confused, I was frustrated, and there was no model. And I was basically going, I got to quit this game. And that's where I was kind of left. Well, a friend of mine who had been playing the Canadian Tour brought a tape of Moe Norman to me and said, you got to check this out. Now, I saw this videotape, and of course, I'm watching Moe on the tape, and I see the single plane. I see Moe, what he's doing. I didn't really know there was a single plane involved, but I saw this interesting way he set up to the golf ball. But what was interesting about the video was that in the video, there were tour players that I had been competing against for years that were watching him. And I was like, well, if these guys are watching Moe, he's got to be really good. This is before I met Moe, obviously. And so then I saw Moe swing, and I'm like, wow, it looks different. It makes sense. And then I started drawing plane lines. I knew enough about the golf swing to say, okay, let's watch club movement. And I started drawing plane lines, and I realized, wow, he is on a single plane. He has actually simplified what I had been trying to accomplish, which is swing plane. All good players are trying to swing the club on a plane to get to impact. Moe was doing it in a much more efficient way, but he had his hands higher, and he had some differences in his setup. So when I finally met him in 1994, I walked up to him. Now, I'd been practicing the swing for a year. So I walked up to him, and I had questions for him. I said, you're the best I've ever seen. He said, I know, I'm the best in the world. And I said, well, how did you learn to do that? And he goes, hard work, can't buy it. And I said, well, would you mind if I grabbed your clubs and hit a few golf shots? And when Moe would do a clinic, there would be clubs scattered everywhere. I call it the Moe Norman garage sale, because stuff was everywhere, and Moe had drivers laying around, and I said, do you mind if I hit your 8-iron? He said, go ahead, go ahead. So I grabbed his 8-iron and started hitting some balls, and he looked over and he goes, it looks like me without a belly, because I'd been practicing the swing for a year prior to meeting him. And I guess that moment that he saw me, saw my commitment to what he was doing, him and I kind of hit it off and became friends. And that day, I sat down with him and I just started talking to him about his swing. And from that point forward, he would go to Florida, I would go to Florida, and I'd go over and spend lots of time with him, hitting golf balls and playing with him. And the thing about, like I said, watching him hit golf balls and taking him to the range and asking him questions about his swing, and he would teach me some things, and I would watch him do things. I would ask him questions. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Let me try this. And he would show me certain things. But it was, to me, the most helpful part was just being in the presence and copying him. And I could look at his lead hand grip, and I could look at my lead hand grip, and I could match it. And I could look at his address and my address, and I could match it. And I could ask him, why is your grip that way? I'd even crawl between his arms and take his hands and move his hands back, and I'd watch how his hands work. I was kind of diving inside. And the thing about it is that here's the thing to it. When I saw Moe hit a ball for the first time, all I thought in my head was, if I could just feel that one time. And really, anybody trying to learn Moe's swing, they're trying the same thing. They're trying to feel exactly what he was doing. But that's hard to do, because why is it hard to do? Because you've never felt it before. And so you've got to feel something new. So I became very good at modeling. I'm very, very good at studying Moe. I asked the right questions, And I was lucky enough to be able to go over and see him when I had certain questions. So I'd study his video, study my video. I'd go drive over to Titusville or wherever he was that day. I'd find him and say, hey, I got some questions for you, and I hit some balls with him. And so that whole process for me, and it took a few years. You know, I didn't have a teacher. Mo was my teacher, but he was only teaching me to the point of, hey, I'll show you this if you come over and see me. I wasn't booking lessons with them or anything. So I had to kind of just evolve and figure this stuff out myself. And that's the beauty of it, because I know my students out there aren't going to want to hear this, but you have to go through that process. You have to go through the process of, you have to go through your own learning process. That's why it's my feeling of greatness. I had to learn how to develop it. You know, one of my challenges was my lead hand grip. If you look back at some of my old videos from early on, I had a really strong lead hand grip, which caused a closed club face at the top, which caused a lot of hooks. I lost 2 big tournaments hitting hooks on some of the last holes. And I knew it was because of my lead hand grip. When I'd speed up, the ball would go left. And I had to, that was the longest thing for me to figure out. The final feel for me was that lead hand grip. And I used to see Mo's grip and I'd go, how's he doing that? I mean, how is he keeping the hand in that spot? Because it doesn't feel right to me. And that's the thing, it didn't feel right to me. Finally, what I had to do is I had to put it there and go, I know it feels terrible. I know I can't hit it right now from there, but it's the last piece of my puzzle. I've got to figure it out. And I just worked my way through it. And that took me the longest time for me. And that's how I developed my own feeling, but that's how Mo really helped me, because I could model. So I wanted to demonstrate to you today the feelings I have, the feelings that Mo taught me in the golf swing that create the ideal club movement. And it's not as complicated as you think. You still have to, like Mo said, you got to practice it. You got to work at it. You can't buy this. You have to put in the time. Talent is earned. As Dan Coyle says in his book, The Talent Code, talent is earned. So you have to earn it. The reason you're here at this school is I'm going to teach you how to practice correctly so you can earn it faster and not spend so much time doing the wrong things and not earning it. So let's talk about his swing a little bit. Now, I'm going to go through a little bit, hit some different shots with some different clubs, but I actually keep this thing pretty simple as far as what I think about in the golf swing. This is just a little gap wedge. And always, as I mentioned earlier, getting your proper address position. So when I set up correctly, I'm setting the club, aligning it on the single plane. So the club is lining up with my trail arm. My body is in the correct tilt, and my grip, my hands are in that neutral lead hand, rotated trail hand position. So I'm in my single plane address position. From this position, it's actually pretty simple. I'm going to rotate into the backswing and fold the trail arm up. So it's a rotation and a fold. So it's an in and an up, and that's exactly what Mo taught me about his swing, was he goes in then up. That produced a backswing on plane. And then he would move into his lead knee, stabilize, he called that buckle. Then he would sit his body, move forward, and then his right hip would rotate in as his arms went through. He called it buckle, sit, slide, and bump. Buckle, sit, slide, and then bump. But it's really just stabilization and rotation. And then he felt as though his hands would go to the target. He felt like he could pull the flag. So he literally had all these different feelings in his swing that produced this ideal club motion. Now this is just a little gap wedge. I'll hit some little shots. I'm just going to take the club back and then down. And ideally, you have to realize that this game that we play of golf is about hitting this thing solid, hitting it with the compression of the club, and controlling the spin. The game is really about controlling spin on this golf ball, and that means we have to have a proper face angle at impact. So by this, when I move correctly, what I'm getting is proper alignment, proper path, and then proper face angle, which produces ideal spin. And you can see the ball flies straight and doesn't curve too much. That's a little gap wedge. One of the things I think is critically important about the learning process, especially when it comes to the golf swing, is getting to see it and experience it. And when that was a big part of my learning process with Mo. When I would go take a bucket of balls, I would go out to the range and basically get 300 golf balls and set them down and just like turn the switch on with Moe and watch him actually demonstrate and hit golf balls in front of me. And watching the timing of the golf swing, watching the execution of the swing, just watching him actually perform, I was doing on a personal basis. I got so much out of just watching him demonstrate, and just I could ask him questions. He was standing there, and he could ask them kind of in the moment, because thoughts would come to me about, wow, wonder what he feels like when he sets up like that, or wonder what he feels like when his hands are like that. Or I'd watch him hit a golf shot and he'd hit one straight, and I'd say, well, what were you thinking about? And I could actually feed off of his performance as he was actually doing it. So I think the act of doing a ball striking demonstration, number one, I think it's a missing art in golf instruction. I think more instructors should do it for their students. Number two, they should open it up for the questions, because you can learn so much from asking things in that moment when people are actually performing, of what's actually going on there. And it's just a great learning experience, and that's why I like to do the demonstrations.
Now I'm going to move into something a little longer. This is the 7-iron. My swing is not changing. The club length changed. It has less loft. However, it's the same exact motion. The longer shaft produces more speed, and the grip didn't change, and the spin won't change. So you're going to see the ball fly without spin. And the key here is I'm not changing my motion. Same setup, same tilt, in and up, same motion. Hands go to the target. No side spin. Now, how can a ball fly without side spin? Everybody in the world says you have to hit it one way or the other. Moe would say you don't have to curve it. You can hit it dead straight. Moe could hit it so straight for a number of reasons. Number one, the club was plain, square, but there's another reason. What he used to describe to me. See how straight that flies? Here's why the ball flies so straight. Watch what happens. How can the club stay square longer? It's a mystery. Not really. Because Moe was on the single plane, so he's on the plane at impact, right, at address, the single plane, and his knee, instead of straightening, which most golf swings do, Moe's knee slightly flexed. Watch what the club does through impact. See how it stays square longer and lower? It didn't do this, didn't do this. Because he's rotating and his knee is flexed, the club can stay longer for a period of time before his arm extends. So that motion right there, the club's coming down, impacts. Look at that club staying square longer. That's how it can stay square so long. The lead knee is flexed and his hands stay lower and square longer through impact. That's how he's doing it. And this hand, remember what I said earlier, it's not rotating. It's doing this. He's eliminated rotation, and he's learned, and because of his address position, he keeps the club square longer through impact. Watch this shot I hit here. I'm going to miss-hit this one on purpose. I'm going to hit it low on the blade. Watch how the ball will still fly straight, even on a thin shot. How does it do that? Because the blade, it's not rotating. I don't care if I hit the ball high in the face or low in the face, it's still staying square. To me, the definition of a good ball striker is a person whose miss-hits are pretty good. Where's your miss-hit straight? Where's your miss-hit straight? You can't get in trouble. So here's same 7-iron, single plane address, in and up, staying down through the ball through impact. How can it fly offline? It just can't fly offline. And it's got no side spin.
To me, good ball striking, and I've said this a dozen times in the last week to people I'm teaching, is good ball strikers are the ones who miss-hit it the best. And what that means really is that your swing is so good that your bad shots are pretty good. Because look, golf course, how many flat lies do you get? Hopefully you get 18 on the tee box, but that's it. And then you're going to get maybe a few decent lies on the golf course, but most of them are on side hill lies, downhill lies. The grass is, you're in weird grass, weird lie in the fairway. So it's an imperfect game. And what happens is you go play and you may only hit a handful of really, really good shots during the round, but it's how good your bad shots are. Did you miss the green by 5 yards, 5 feet, or did you hit it in the water? So your swing, the quality of your golf swing will determine how good your bad shots are. And there's where the genius of Moe comes in. And I think that's a misconception that amateurs have, is that they think you got to be perfect. And the goal is to build a great golf swing technique and go deal with the elements that you get on the golf course, and you're going to hit a handful of good shots, but most of them you want to have them in a position where you can use your scoring game and get up and down. And I think just the concept of the game amateurs misconceived, that you got to be a perfect player out there. And I know this is going to sound funny coming from me. It's probably not the most important part of shooting low scores, even though it's a very important part. Putting and chipping. I mean, look, I've had great rounds where I've hit 18 greens of regulation and I shoot 74, 2 over par, because I miss every putt and I can't hit a wedge. So you can't score well if you don't have a wedge game, a short game. And my brother and I have this argument on a consistent basis of what game is more important, and it's a fun part of our golf schools because he'll go over there and say the most important part of the game is wedge game and putting, and I'll go over and say the most important part of the game is ball striking. They're both very important parts of the game. However, the misconception is that great ball striking is going to shoot lower scores. It's definitely a part of that, but amateurs have to understand that short game and putting is very important, and maybe more important from the scoring side. And here's the problem. Why do they perceive it that way? Because a lot of times we flick the TV on a Sunday afternoon and all we see is the guy who's playing the best. It gives us an illusion that these guys are holing shots, like Dustin Johnson holing it from the fairway on the 18th hole on the left, that these guys are holing shots and they're that good. And they are that good at times. But generally, the guy who wins the tournament had the most consistent week, and he was able to get it up and down and have one round where he didn't hit it that good, but he got up and down a bunch and still scored well enough to win the tournament at the end. So I think amateurs have to understand the game in general, that it's not a game of perfection, that you develop a swing, that's very, very efficient, and you use that efficiency and you then build a short game and you then have a great golf game on a day-to-day basis.
Now, just for a quick demonstration to understand side spin, I'm going to take this same 7-iron. And normally this would be my grip position, right? Okay, see that grip position? Club's nice and square, nice and lined up. Okay, I'm going to rotate this face. How many degrees is that? So I went from there,
I don't know, 10 or
probably 4, 3 or 4. So if that was 90, that's 45, that's half of that, that's half of that, that's 4 degrees. So I'm gonna do my best to get 4 degrees of face rotation. Now, I'm gonna hit a 7-iron with 4 degrees of closed rotation in the face. I promise you I'll make that same swing I made a second ago dead straight, okay? So, 4 degrees, so I'll let you guys see this. So 4 degrees, okay? Closed, 4 degrees. Watch what 4 degrees of a closed 7-iron face does to the golf ball. I promise you I'll make a good swing. That's 4 degrees. 4 degrees. That's what is that? It's a bad grip, right? Because the face is shut. And I went to impact, but I couldn't get there because when I went to impact, the face was at that angle. So, how important is your grip? Yeah, because that's your face angle, right? So, let me try to get that one out of my system. Take my normal, proper grip, which is a neutral lead hand, which I can keep square a long time. Should I try 4 open? All right. All right, so 4 open, right? Yeah. Obviously, added loft and open face. Doesn't go as far to one side because when you add loft, you increase the upward motion of the ball, so it's not going to go as curved, but still not good. And the reason I demonstrate that is address position is more than just your grip. It's your arm position, your hand position, your body's tilt, all those things together, because what's the most important moment of the golf swing? Impact. The goal is to get to impact. So I got to be able to get this club to impact with the ideal position of my body where the club is square. So I'm going to set myself up like Moe with the proper tilt, make it very easy to get to impact, and make sure there's no side spin on the golf ball. Now, let me ask you this. How would you hit it? So I think there's some important things in golf, by the way, and I'm going to document this on this video. I don't believe you need to curve the golf ball to play the game. No. I mean, you can try, and I'm not saying there's not shots that might be better if you curve them, but to play this game effectively at a very high level, you do not need to curve the golf ball. 99% of the shots that I hit when I play are aimed straight at my target. I'm not saying they're aimed straight at the flag. I'm saying I may aim to the center of the green as my target, or to the right side of the fairway as my target, or whatever. But to curve a golf ball means I have to add an element of inconsistency to the rotation of the golf ball. Well, you don't need to do it. The only people that curve the golf ball, they curve it because of one very important reason. They know which way it's going to curve. So they make it predictable. If you hit a ball left to right every time you play, you can play the game because you know it's curving left to right every time. The guys who have the most trouble playing the game hit it left and right. They don't know which. Moe called it army golf, left and right, where am I going? But I don't believe you need to curve the golf ball.
I love the conversation about curving the golf ball, ball curvature, because this is a debate that instructors have all the time. And look, you have Moe Norman who hit the ball straight. Granted, I had him curve the ball all the time. When I played golf with him, I'd say hit a hook, hit a draw, hit a fade, hit a slide. He did it all the time, so he could easily curve the golf ball. But he chose to hit it straight. And so the debate is, there's two debates. The one debate is, should you hit it straight? Is that the best way to hit a golf shot? And the other debate is it even possible for you to consistently hit it straight? And that's the argument I have with golf instructors all the time. Now, when I'm hitting the ball well, and I generally hit the ball pretty well, I hit as little side spin on the golf ball as possible, so I hit it straight. I play straight shots. When I play a round of golf, and when I teach golf, I teach straight shots. Now, why do I teach straight? First of all, I think it's possible, or I wouldn't teach it, but I think that you can absolutely hit the ball with zero side spin. I've done it, Moe's done it, it's easy to do. Most guys out there have done it. But golf instructors will debate that because the club's coming from the inside that it can even be a consistent that you can do. I don't debate that. I have proof of it that you can and should hit the ball perfectly straight. Now, can you do it on a consistent basis? Well, that's where Moe's swing comes in, because Moe absolutely wanted to hit the ball dead straight. Why? Because the way he swung the golf club kept the club square for a longer period of time, lowered the ground more square for a longer period of time through impact, and it produces straighter golf shots. So it's a technical thing that Moe did in his swing, just from the single plane and from the way he moved the club, moved his body. So that's courage. But let's talk about why I think straight shots are the most important. It's because, here's the thing. If I aim down the middle of the fairway, so let's say it's a 30-yard wide fairway. Average fairway is probably 30 yards wide on a golf course with a driver. And I aim down the middle of the fairway, and I push it 10 yards or pull it 10 yards, I'm still in the fairway, right? If I aim it, if I hit a right to left shot, let's say I hit a draw. Let's say you're one of the instructors out there that says your natural shot's a draw, and you aim it down the middle, you only have 15 yards to work with in that fairway, the left half, right? So where you have to aim it, if you hit a draw, is to the right half of the fairway. You only have a 15-yard target line, the right half. Or if you hit a big enough draw, you got to aim it away from the fairway to get it to land in the fairway, right? So by hitting it straight, it gives you twice the chance to hit it in the fairway from a guy who hits a fade or a guy who hits curvature in a draw. Now, Moe would often say you got when he hit a shot in the green, you got 2 chances for it to go in. What do you mean by that? Well, the way there, then when it hits, if it's going straight, it's got another chance, right? If it's curving, it doesn't have 2 chances to go in. So Moe's comment, my shots have 2 chances to go in, is because he hit it straight. And if it had backspin, you got 3 chances. One on the way there, fly, lands short, one on the way going, and then if it has backspin, one on the way coming back. So if you hit it straight, and by the way, very few guys curve a golf ball into the hole, right? If they catch a slope maybe and it goes in, but they hit it to a spot and the green takes it in the hole. But most shots are going straight in when they go in, and that's straight golf shots. They can't be curving off to the side.
I'll show you that you can curve it if you want to. However, let's talk probably something more important is hitting it high and low, because I believe trajectory of the golf ball matters. 17 at TPC, Sawgrass, does that should require a high shot or a low shot? High, because you want it to stop and please stop when it hits. You don't want it bouncing over the back of that green. So tell me how would I hit a low shot?
I'd place it the ball or back toward the back.
Okay, so the problem with placing it back, and that's why most people say, well, you got to de-loft the club somehow coming down. The problem with placing it back in my stance is the arc of the golf swing, if it's back, will have an open face. Okay, so back will de-loft it, but it also opens the face. Let's do it a little different way. Instead of putting the ball back in my stance, let's move it back in my stance without moving the ball. How would I do that? Trick question, right. So I'm going to actually narrow my feet just a little bit. Now, why does that de-loft the club? So watch me for a second. So why does that de-loft the club? Because it puts me more in front of the golf ball, but it didn't change ball position, okay? Does that make sense? All right, so you saw that 1 7-iron. Let's do this. Let's hit a 7-iron where I go from 7 to wedge. Now watch watch trajectory on the 7-iron. Lower, right? Nice. But no, it didn't curve, still straight, because the face could get square. Now, how would I hit it lower than that with a 7-iron? Hit a 6-iron. Hit a 5-iron. I always laugh when people, I'm going to punch a 7. Just hit a 5. All right. Okay, so I'll hit a couple 5-irons. Now, if I want to hit it higher, what would I do? Widen, right? So now I'm just going to widen my feet to like a hybrid, and let's hit a 5-iron with some loft on it. So that's a little trajectory on a 5-iron, right? Same swing, not changing anything. So low is what? A little narrow. High is a little wider. Give yourself a little more loft in the club. Here's a normal 5-iron. Same exact as a 7-iron. Same plane, same exact feeling in my swing. I'm leveraging the club. It goes in, then up. Transition, release, trying to get the hands to go to the target. Now, let's talk about if you decided you want to try to put side spin on it. Okay, you saw the one where I changed my grip, right? See how much that curved? That was actually a face angle change, correct? Because I rotated the 4 degrees closed or 4 degrees open. What I'm going to do to curve a golf ball, I'm not going to do it with face angle. What's the other thing I can do it with? Path. I'm going to change the path of the club. So instead of coming directly down into the back of the golf ball to hit it straight, to fade it, I'm going to come from the outside. To draw it, I'm going to come from the inside. How am I going to do that?
Foot position.
I'm going to change my foot position and ball position, because what I want to do is I want to change my foot position more open to fade it, but the face angle is still going to go towards my target line, okay? And then I'm going to swing down. There's my foot line. I'm going to swing down my foot line with my face angle. Balls move slightly forward. Watch what this ball does now. See how it fades now? Because I swung left and the face is open. I did it with path. So if I ever curve the ball, which I rarely do, I will do a slight little path curve. So I'll hit this one a little more to the right. This is a slight little fade. Now, the good thing about it is I can hit it I can compress the ball pretty hard because I'm not opening the face. It's not glancing the golf ball. And you can see a nice little hard fade in there. So it's hit good, right? But it has some trajectory and some speed. Draw the golf ball. I'll just move the ball slightly back. My feet would feel like they're a little more to the right. I'm going to swing to the right path. So it swings from the inside. Watch this ball have a little bit of curvature right to left. That is the most I will curve a golf ball. I won't curve it more than that.
So to be clear, Tim, you didn't change your swing.
Yeah, I changed my arm path. I changed my body position so I can change my arm path. That's what I did, right? Well, let's put it this way. It mostly has to do with arm path because, watch this. I'll open my feet, but I'll draw it. How am I going to do that? So I'm gonna open my feet. Even though my body line's open, the ball's far enough back, I can swing my arms from the inside. So my shoulder line is to the right. Now watch, I will draw this golf ball from a right position because I'm able to swing from the inside. It's all about torso and arm path, not really about foot position, but this just helps me. I move this way, it helps, this way it helps. It's always about the path of the arms and the hands. I asked Mo the same question. I said, what do you line up? Like you're hitting a shot, what do you line up? He goes, club face. What else? Club face. Line the club face. Where do you want the club to go? That's it. You didn't think about this stuff. Line your face angle up. Get your club to move towards the target. So line your face up. Get that club to move where you want the ball to go. And it flies where you're lined up. All right, high 5-iron, straight. So I'm gonna just hit a little higher 5-iron, widen the feet, so the ball position is not moving. I'm just going behind it more because my head is getting behind it more because of my stance width, right? And now watch this 5-iron, pins on the front of the green, give me some trajectory on it. Nice and soft. But since I'm not really moving ball position too much, face can stay square, right? Stay square. All right, same 5-iron, pretty normal. All right. Driver, we're going to work on driver this week. Probably one of the most important clubs in the bag. Why is this one of the most important clubs? Goes the furthest. But I'm not changing my swing. Same swing, same address, club's longer. Ball position's on a tee, it's slightly more forward, but this motion is exactly the same. Not changing the motion, it's the exact same swing motion. Notice the tilt is key for me. Tilt, see how my shoulder goes down? This works straight up, straight down. I just don't feel much motion. I'm not rotating this, I'm tilted, it's up and down. And because Mo figured out that if you tilt correctly, it puts this hand in a non-rotational position, it makes getting to impact so much easier. The other thing too that Mo figured out, if I keep the trail foot on the ground through impact, so if I'm set up and I keep this trail foot down through impact, this stops and this goes down the line. So I'm not spinning out, I'm not over rotating. So watch the trail foot on this one, I'll keep it down right through impact. The face can stay square longer. All right, so let's hit a couple side spins. Slight fade, pretty easy. 8.5 degrees on this golf club. I'm just gonna open the feet a little bit, create a little outside path, watch a slight fade in there. Not changing my swing, I'm just angling to the left. Slight fade. But I'll never move a ball more than that.
What's your record without breaking a tee?
Ooh, I don't know. Not sure. I mean, most of the shots I hit, I just aim right down the fairway and then just swing right down the middle.
How far from the balls?
Distance feet line, you mean? How far are my feet from the ball on a driver? 37.5 inches from toe line to tee. But I feel the same here. So you can see I'm in my tilt. This arm is above this arm. It takes out the rotation of the trail side. So now it's an up and down motion. If I can do that, the ball will fly straight.
Do you feel like you're hitting up at all?
Because the ball is on a tee and it's so far forward, I feel the club it does feel like it moves up slightly. I don't feel like I'm making a motion to hit up. You know what I'm saying? Because if the ball is far enough forward, it'll naturally come up in the rotation. See that? So it naturally comes up. Yeah. So it's for example, if I had the ball too far back in my stance, it would naturally come down, right? So it's a function of address.
Are you watching the ball on the camera?
Uh-oh. This is where I mishit my first shot of the clinic right here. What am I looking at?
Yeah, what are you looking at?
So
You looking where your butt is or where the ball is?
I look at the ball, but I look, it's a total just I look in the direction of the ball. So I'm never looking specifically at the ball. So it's a good question actually. So I'm looking at, I look at the club to line it up. I look at the ball. I look at the club at the GAN to check it. I look at the ball, then I swing. So I look at the ball, I'm looking in the direction, then I swing through it. So ball, yeah. But I kind of go back and forth a little bit at first, right? When I asked Mo the question, I said, what do you think makes your golf swing so good? And when do you hit it your best? Like, when do you feel like you're hitting it your best? He said, I stay with it. That was his answer, I stay with it. What he meant by that was that when your knee is flexed and you hit a golf ball, you stay with the shot. Your foot's down, you're staying through the golf shot with the arms, hands in rotation. You're not jumping away from the ball, you're not lifting up, you're staying through it. So I feel the exact same thing. So I have my plane, set up on plane, I take it back and I stay with it all the way through. And because my grip is good, it stays square that period of time.
Yeah, so I asked Mo the question. I said, when you hit your best shots, what do you feel? And he goes, I stay with it. I stay with it. And staying with it, and of course I was like, what does that mean? Like everything else you told me a lot of times, what does that mean? Staying with it is basically staying down. A lot of people consider it staying down, but it's not necessarily keeping your head still. It's just staying in position, because Mo would say, hit your positions, hit your positions, hit your positions. And when you're confident and you hit your positions, you stay with the shot.
I did. Oh, I used to stay there for 5-10 minutes. Just
Dropping
stay
it?
there like that.
Mm-hmm.
Used to stay like that for 5 or 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Just trying to keep your legs flexed, kind of.
In a sitting position.
Mm-hmm.
I think people might even say, well, you know, what's the opposite of staying with it? It's coming out of a shot, like not having confidence in it. So, and maybe people could even relate to putting, when you stay with the putt and the ball stays on line and you have so much confidence that you just know it's going to go in, you stay with the shot. And it's really more of a thing of confidence, knowing and executing and staying with the shot and not bailing out or feeling unconfident. Because, and think about this, I come out of golf shots, I hit bad shots when I don't feel good before the shot. For example, if you said, Todd, it's a 7-iron, you got 200 yards to the flag, I'm gonna set up with a 7-iron. I can't hit a 7-iron 200 yards, but I'm gonna stand there and I'm gonna swing way too hard at it, or I'm gonna bail out of it or something, because I just know I can't do it. But if I'm fully confident in that 7-iron and it's 165 yards, I'm gonna stay with it and hit it right at the flag, because I have full confidence in that. So part of that staying with it is having confidence in the shot and just executing perfectly because you know you're going to hit the shot the right distance. And that's what Moe meant by staying with it.
What's your average distance when you drive?
I'm hitting this about 285 to 290 consistently, which, by the way, the clubs these days, it's ridiculous how far I can hit them. I mean, I'm not swinging it much faster. These clubs are just so good. I had a 5-iron the other day. I just got some new Callaways. And I went to play one round with them, and it was the first round I'd played with the clubs. And whenever I play around with clubs, you know, you just don't know how far they go. So the first shot I hit, I think I had a 9-iron into the green, and I kind of hit it on the back of the green and went like 150. It's pretty long for a 9-iron. You start swinging better throughout the round, you know, you start getting more aggressive. By the time I got to number 8, it was 207 to the flag. I hit a 5-iron to the back of the green. A 210-yard 5-iron, that's pretty long for me. Where I used to be a 185 guy with 5-iron, 20 yards, that's a lot. But it's just when you're swinging good, and the equipment these days is just so good.
All right, that drive, do you feel any different than your other drives? I mean, some are better than others?
Yeah. Some I hit a little more solid than others. Some I can feel the spin a little. That one I hit a tiny bit low on the face. Yep. I'll tell you when I hit a good one.
Okay. Been watching, they're all pretty.
Yeah, they're all pretty good, but I'll tell you when my best one comes up. The one before that one, the ball had a little more juice on it. I'll see with this one here. That's probably as good as I can hit it. But you see the flight of it, right? Okay, watch this one. This is cool. Okay, nice Oklahoma clay on the ball, right? Okay. So, you know, I'm a golf nerd. You got to figure this stuff out. So, if the mud's on the right, see the mud on the right? Okay, if it stays on, which way is the ball going to go? Goes the opposite. Mud on right, ball goes left. So watch this. This ball should go to the left. If it doesn't, I lied. Not a lot. Pushed it over there. So it's always mud on right, ball go left, mud on left, ball go right.
So if it's a dog leg right hole, do you still just aim straight?
Yeah, I'll either aim straight and not hit driver if I'm gonna hit it through the dog leg, or I will aim straight over the trees and hit it straight over the trees. Because I can pretty much predict how far it's gonna fly. I just can't predict how far it's gonna roll. So, for example, if I hook it, I have no idea how far it's gonna fly. So let's say it's a dog leg left, let's say. Medina number 9. Medina number 9, great golf hole. How many times have I hit it through the fairway with a driver on that hole? Almost every time I've played it. So I either I get on the right side of the tee and I aim where it's using cut the corner, or I hit a 3-wood. But I never try to curve it around the corner because I just can't predict how much curvature is going to go on it, and I can't predict how far that curve is going to fly. So it's either straight shot over the trees, which I do a lot, or it's a 3-wood off the tee. Yeah. Setup, always work on your setup. Create your plane, tilt, shoulders back, up and down movement. That one I hit with the face slightly open. But the simplicity of it for me has a lot to do with stabilizing lower body, being in a position where I don't have to move a lot, I don't have a lot of rotation in my upper body, and it's just up, down, and I'm able to get to impact consistently. There's just no side spin on that golf ball. It's just no side spin.
Would you be able to hit it further if you were using a different ball instead of the practice balls?
Yeah. Yeah, if I hit the Callaway Chrome Soft or some of the new Callaway balls, yeah, it's a little longer. Yeah, I've been trying to pick out some of the cleaner ones in this group. Here we go again, same setup. Notice how the club, where's that club pointing in my body? it's already pointing where it's going to be at impact. So I set it up that way, never back here. It's always there. So I just return it back to that spot. So setting up, pointing over here, leverage, right back down.
Do you ever fiddle around with the height of the tee to get a different lower ball or high ball?
So no, I actually keep it pretty consistent. Here's why. It's a good question. You've heard of this thing called moment of inertia? Moment of inertia is this. So I have this driver and it has the center of mass is somewhere back in this driver. If I hit this ball solid, the ball compresses. It's called coefficient of elasticity, but it's called smash factor. If the center of mass of this club swung at good speed, doesn't matter what speed, but good speed, hits the center of mass of this golf ball, it's a 1.5 smash factor, right? That's ideal. That means the ball will come off 1.5 times as fast as the club is moving, okay? If I hit it off of center, I get less of a smash factor, less mass, less velocity, okay? If I hit the ball low relative to the center of mass, the club, since the center of mass is higher, will move it this direction. Physics says that the ball will move in the opposite direction. It rotates backwards. The lower I hit it, the more it spins. The higher I hit it, the less it spins. Okay. If I tee it low and hit it low on the face, it produces more spin. So if you're into the wind, don't tee it lower. You think you should, you think it would make sense, it doesn't make sense because I'd rather hit the ball with less rotation than too much rotation. So if I'm into the wind, I leave the ball at a normal tee height and I try to just hit it solid because that produces the ideal spin, and that's going to be an ideal spin rate for wind. It's all about spin. I never tee a driver low, ever. There's no purpose behind it. If anything, I tee it higher, just so I can catch the ball in the sweet spot. So that's a little bit higher. And this one might go, I'll just lean on this one a little bit. Now the last thing I want to show you is this driver. Remember these old things? Old Persimmon headed. This is actually a laminate one. But these things, the shaft's a little more flexible in this.
What kind of driver is this?
It's an old Wilson. I got it off eBay. I don't know, it has probably like 6 degrees of loft on it. Can't tell. This is the same driver Moe was hitting off the Coke bottle, demonstrating hitting off Coke bottles. Of course, I've been trying to hit off Coke bottle, I keep breaking the Coke bottle. I don't know how he did it. Haven't figured it out. But it's fun to hit.
And now you tee that same height as the other driver, but the face on the other one is bigger.
Yeah, like I said, I try to get at least half the ball above the face, and that's where I tee it, yeah. It doesn't fly as far, but it rolls quite a bit. I've been taking it on the course trying to see if I can get, and it almost goes as far as that. It rolls like crazy. This thing has a ton of roll in it. I can tell that it doesn't spin the ball very much. Knuckleballs it pretty good. Yeah, it's not going as far. It's kind of, it's fun though.
The question is, do you ever say, okay, my last shot wasn't quite what I wanted?
No. Matter of fact, if I'm on the golf course and I hit a couple bad shots, I just keep aiming and swinging. I don't try to outthink myself. Sunday morning, I'm going to walk you through, I have 4 processes that I play golf with. Now, I say they're processes. They're just little routines that I play golf with. It's how I play the game. I'll talk you through my processes. It really, you're gonna hear me say this and go, that sounds so simple, it's common sense. You know, it makes sense what I do. I'm gonna tell you my common sense way of playing golf, but one of the things that I don't do is think here. Now, let me tell you when I do think. Back there is red zone. That's where I select the club, pick my target, decide where I wanna go, make some decisions. Okay, where's the wind, where's my target? Okay, got it, got my driver. When I go from red zone into what I call green zone, this is where I hit the shot, I literally line up, get comfortable, and swing. The most important part of green zone, getting comfortable. If I'm uncomfortable in there, I make bad swings. So when I walk in here and I'm in green zone, it's line up, get comfortable. You know, I've picked out my target, so I'm just aimed at that. So I'm picking my target, get comfortable, get comfortable, get comfortable, pull the trigger. That's how I do it. So literally, I try to just get comfortable in here. If I've trained my swing enough and I've practiced enough, this just becomes like, you drove your car here today. Did you think about it? No, because you've driven your car 1,000 times or 10,000 times. You don't have to think about steering or staying between the lines or putting the brake on or hitting the gas. You don't think about this stuff anymore because you've done it, you've built a process around it. Now, if I tied one leg, like I tied your driving leg underneath you and said, now drive the car, now you got to think about it. Now you're going to be driving going, okay, now how do I hit, what am I pressing? So, because I changed your routine. So the whole idea of playing good golf to me is creating a great routine. Routine meaning, how do you go from here and then how do I get comfortable and execute? That's all that golf really is. But you got to train a decent swing first, right? So I get in here, I get comfortable, and I hit.
So when you pick your target with your driver, are you picking it from behind when you're looking at it, or where do you?
Yeah, so what I do is, it's a good question, because what I do from back here is, I think all fear, which is what distracts us from good sequencing, all fear is out there, right? Let's say I had a 5-yard wide fairway. The ball, Mo would say you can fit a ball in it, okay, but I got a 5-yard wide fairway, and it's out there. All right, well, it's scary, okay? When I get back here and I pick out my spot that aims it down that 5-yard wide fairway, I simply aim to that spot, I take a look at that spot, take a look at that spot, take a look at that spot, and I swing. And the reason I'm looking at the spot is because there's no fear here.
So you just pick a spot right in front of the tee.
Right there. Aim, 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 swing over it. And whatever happens out there is whatever happens out there. Can't control it. But what I do, if I go like this, fear, 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 right? You start going, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Yeah. I've seen guys do that so much. They line up and they start wiggling their feet around because they start getting afraid, you know? I was playing a Canadian Tour event. It was actually in Myrtle Beach. And my caddy and I, we got to they tee off 1 and 10, and we were teeing off 10 for the tournament. And 10 was a 240-yard carry, not a big carry, all over water, but it was blowing 40 miles an hour into our face. This is the first shot of the day. So and we get there, and there's still 2 groups waiting to hit on the tee because so many guys were hitting the water. It's taking forever to get off this tee box. So my caddy and I, we were sitting there like this, and I watched the first guy hit in the water, second guy hits in the water, third guy barely clears it, fourth guy hits in the water, fifth guy hits in the water. My caddy goes, turn around. So we just had to stop watching. Like, oh my God. Because it's getting so scary. It's like, these guys are good. And if they keep hitting the water, this must really be a hard shot. And your brain starts going. So my caddy's like, aim and fire, man. Just aim and fire. Just aim and fire. So I just got up there, and I'm telling you what, I was like, I don't know if I can hit this shot. I was like, what am I going through? So I just aimed it. Whatever happens, happens. Get in here, get comfortable, and fire. I cleared it by about 5 yards, but I got it across, barely. But what can you do? You know, you just got to be aggressive. And fear is the #1 problem out there. And by the way, like if I hit a couple bad shots on the course, hit a couple bad ones, you would think the next one I'd be, okay, I hooked the last one, don't hook this one. No, I don't do that. I just go right back into my routine and fire away. Because Here's one thing I don't let happen when I play. Do not let fear control your decisions, ever. I'd rather hit it bad all day long as fear doesn't control the decisions I make. I'll just hit it bad all day. Oh well, hit it bad. But when I let fear control how I'm aiming or how I'm feeling and whatever, then I play really bad. Whereas if I just go back into my rhythm, pick my target, set up, aim and fire, eventually my process will come back, my rhythm will come back, and I'll start hitting it good.
So you never really take practice swings.
No, I never. Nope. No, he never took a practice swing. Never saw him take one. Matter of fact, one day I played with him at Greenleaf in Florida. He was late, right? Where's Mo? Where's Mo? Where's Mo? He walks up, grabs his club. I mean, literally, it's like this. He grabs his club, walks up, takes one look, and goes right down the middle. Got back in the cart. I'm like, he didn't even go hit range balls. We were out there warming up, you know? Now, if you're going to practice swing, though, seriously, not in red zone, not in green zone, do it outside of red zone to where, you know, if you're like, I'm a little tight in my back, whatever, loosen up, but then go to red zone, select your shot, and then go to green zone. So I never like anything to interrupt my decision versus my execution. That's really the rhythm, decision, execution. If I make a decision to hit a shot, and I walk in here, and something distracts me, let's say a butterfly flies on my ball or a bug flies in my ear or something distracts me, I get out, get my composure back, okay, and then go back in. I don't sit there and go, well, damn butterfly, okay, hang on. So out of rhythm, you know? So this is all about alignment, set up, feel good, execute. So it's all about feeling good before you execute. Biggest thing for me though, when I set up, I'll say this the only way I know how to say it. I feel like I'm gonna hit it good before I swing. And the way I know that is because from this position, it's so easy to go from here to there to me that I don't feel like I can miss those positions. I could screw that up if I was in the wrong address position, but from address, because of the position I'm in, it just makes it so easy for me to get back to impact. So a lot of the function of what I do is mastering your position at address and that pivot to where you can get back to impact. If you can master those things, it's not as hard as it seems. It's less rotation usually than most people think. It's less movement than most people think. It's just not a lot of movement to go from here to here. Most of the time when I'm measuring people, they rotate too much in the backswing and they under-rotate in the downswing. When you'd rather have them under-rotate in the backswing and then over-rotate in the downswing, most of the time. But that's what this camp we're gonna do for you is narrow down exactly the positions and motion you need to be in, simplify it for you.
So the thing that I want people to get from me doing demonstrations is, first of all, I think it's critically important to see the single plane swing in action. The timing of it, the execution of it. I hear all the time from students when they watch me hit golf balls, first of all, it looks so simple. It looks so efficient. It looks so accurate. It looks so compact, or they'll have different terms that they use for the look and appearance of the swing. Well, they only can get that if they see it in person. It's hard to see on video. You got to see it in real time. And the other thing too is, and I think a lot of people talk about the learning process. You know, people say I'm an auditory learner, or I'm kinesthetic, or which is feel, or I'm a visual. I personally think that we start visual. We see something we want to learn. We process the visual aspects of it, and then we have to get into a kinesthetic, how do I do that? But we have to do it visually first. Very few people can ever just jump into something and feel it, because your feelings never match your perception. So the goal is to perceive it and then match that perception to the reality of feeling it. So by doing exhibitions and demonstrations, people can see it, perceive it, they get the timing of it, which, you know what, the kinesthetic timing of it is feel, because they can see, wow, it's happening pretty fast. Maybe I should feel faster. So there's so much to be learned from execution and watching somebody execute something. And I just read, recently just read Dan Coyle's book, The Talent Code, and I follow Dan Coyle, who's a friend of mine, about how you achieve talent. And by the way, people should read this book, The Talent Code. And he makes a comment, which I notice as well, that professional players, golfers, watch other professionals to get better. If you want to get better, go watch the guys who are the best at it, right? I love to watch Mo hit golf balls. I love to watch good players hit chip shots or putts. I was watching some putting the other day, watching the execution of a putting stroke, but I'm learning by watching because I'm seeing things. And then if the second step of that is have a chance to actually ask about it. When I do exhibitions, people can ask me questions too. So I love to be able to give them the answers to the questions that are popping up in their head as they're actually seeing the execution of the single plane swing.